We all know in our hearts that Godzilla is the king of monsters, but although the towering creature has been a fixture on our screens for decades, there's still plenty of stuff most people don't know about the history of the franchise. Here's the untold truth of Godzilla. Given that he's largely known for starring in a series of cheapy creature features, it's easy to forget Godzilla was originally intended as a heavy-handed and fairly blunt metaphor for the dangers of nuclear weapons. As the scars of World War II have faded, this aspect of Godzilla's character has been toned down somewhat in favor of showing the big G backhanding creatures from a city block away with his tail. This said, Godzilla's roots are still subtly represented in his character design, specifically his skin. The original Godzilla suit, which has served as the basis of every iteration of the character since, was directly inspired by the horrific burns and scars of the unfortunate souls who survived the nuclear blasts at Hiroshima and Nagasaki. This was done to serve as a constant reminder that Godzilla was born as a direct result of a nuclear weapons test. It also possibly explains why he screams so much, since it suggests he's in near constant pain. Watching some of the fight scenes in his earlier movies, you'd be forgiven for thinking that Godzilla's entire fighting style revolves around throwing clumsy claw swipes and haphazard tail swings at his enemies. You know, except for that one time he dominates Megalon with a dropkick delivered at Mach 3 with the help of Jet Jaguar. As it turns out though, Godzilla actually fought using more grace than most would give him credit for, and in fact technically has a black belt in judo. The actor who first played Godzilla, Haru Nakajima, became so accustomed to the weight and limitations of the Godzilla suit that he was largely given free rein to script and choreograph all of his own fight scenes. Nakajima, who had a black belt in judo, spent many years perfecting Godzilla's fighting style, basing it mainly on judo and adapting for Godzilla's ambling bulk and large lizardy girth. This is why if you watch early films in which Nakajima played Godzilla, you'll notice he seems to favor chokeholds and throws, supplemented by blasts of atomic fire breath, something we're sure would be a part of actual judo if it was possible. In his original movie incarnation, Godzilla stood about 164 feet tall, and has gotten steadily taller with each reboot of the franchise, more than doubling in height to about 390 feet tall in the latest Japanese film. You're probably thinking that increasing Godzilla's height has a lot to do with the ever-increasing size of modern buildings, and you'd be right, but there's slightly more to it than that. In the original 1954 movie, a conscious decision was made that Godzilla had to be just slightly taller than every building he appeared next to. The idea behind this being that Godzilla would be visible on the city's skyline no matter where you were, making him an ever-present threat. To make this possible, buildings that were taller than Godzilla at the time were deliberately scaled down further than others when constructing miniatures. As the skyline of Japan got bigger, so did Godzilla, although this idea dropped by the wayside for more recent movies, as making Godzilla the size of modern skyscrapers would make him too big. A problem we wouldn't think anyone would care about until we heard that prior to the release of the 2014 movie, hundreds of people called the new design fat. Next to the Wilhelm scream and that stock noise of a dolphin you always seem to hear in terrible movies, no noise in cinematic history is as recognizable as Godzilla's roar. Initially created by rubbing a leather glove along the strings of a bass guitar, the original recording of the roar is safely kept in Toho's offices, occasionally being used to serve as the basis of an updated version. Using the method used to create the original roar as a starting point, the sound designers for the 2014 movie worked in secret to create the new updated Godzilla roar. If you look in the art book released alongside the movie, Godzilla: The Art of Destruction, they tell you exactly how they did it. They used the sound of dry ice on a metal vent, some crunching rocks, and the noise made by a wooden crate being dragged across a polished floor. When the sound engineers had the final version of the roar, they got in contact with the Rolling Stones and asked to borrow the speakers they used on tour, then played the roar through them as loudly as possible. The resulting noise was so loud, it shook windows for several blocks and caused a terrified executive at Universal Studios 3 miles away to call and ask what was going on. Since we've talked about the 2014 Godzilla movie, we might as well talk about the 1998 one too, and share the fact that Toho hated it so much, they changed the canon of the franchise to erase it from existence. As bad as the reaction to the 1998 film was in the West, in Japan it was so much worse. One of the actors who actually played Godzilla, Kenpachiro Satsuma, went so far as to walk out of an early screening, angrily telling everyone present, "It's not Godzilla, it doesn't have his spirit." Along with its unappealing design, many Japanese critics pointed out that it didn't make sense that a creature birthed by a nuclear explosion seemed afraid of missiles shot from helicopters. When rights to the franchise reverted back to Toho after TriStar wisely chose not to try making a sequel to the 1998 movie, the company started a systematic campaign to wipe it out of official Godzilla history. The company started by dubbing the creature Zilla as a nod to TriStar taking, quote, "God out of Godzilla," then put it into the film Godzilla Final Wars, where it was unceremoniously clubbed to death by the real Godzilla. You'd assume, based on the fact he's destroyed Tokyo half a dozen times in his movies, creates earthquakes with his every step, and is a giant atomic lizard, the city wouldn't really be a big fan of Godzilla. However, the city not only loves their resident radioactive reptile, they've bestowed several unique honors upon him, granting him official Japanese citizenship and even offering him a job as the tourism ambassador for the Shujinko district. Though positioned mostly as a PR move, Shujinko officials nonetheless went out of their way to make Godzilla's citizenship and job offer legitimate, or as legitimate as they can be given he's a big fictional lizard. Along with releasing an official copy of his citizenship papers to the public as a souvenir, Godzilla was awarded a nice sash in honor of his contributions to Japanese culture, which a guy in costume accepted on his behalf. Shujinko was so pleased at Godzilla accepting the position of tourism ambassador that they built a giant statue of him. Although he weighs several thousand tons, is several dozen stories tall, and has tiny, almost comically stubby arms, Godzilla is surprisingly agile for his size. The exact extent of his ability varies from movie to movie, with arguably the greatest and most unexpected demonstration of his agility occurring in the 1971 movie Godzilla vs. Hedorah. Using his atomic breath, Godzilla can propel himself through the air at several hundred miles per hour. Along with increasing Godzilla's aerial combat capabilities exponentially and melting minds with its sheer stupidity, the feat raises some serious questions about just how powerful Godzilla's atomic breath is, as it can produce enough force to propel him through the air. The folks over at the YouTube channel Death Battle actually worked this out, and figured out that his breath produced about 328 trillion pounds of force per square inch. With the exception of American remakes and a few scenes in Shin Godzilla, Godzilla has almost universally been created using the tried and true guy in big rubber suit method. Over the years, the suits worn by the actors portraying the radioactive reptile have gotten increasingly sophisticated, which is probably a good thing, since early suits nearly killed the men wearing them. As recounted in the 2004 behind-the-scenes documentary Bringing Godzilla Down to Size, it kind of sucked for the actors who have had the honor of stepping into the suit's big rubber boots. Along with being uncomfortable, cumbersome, and unflattering on the thighs, the suit was almost unthinkably heavy, with early versions weighing roughly 220 pounds. This made even walking in the suit an almost Herculean feat, and the actors explained that they frequently became dangerously dehydrated. For stunt scenes, particularly ones involving water, the suit posed an especially significant hazard. Both Nakajima and Satsuma noted that they were almost killed doing water-based stunts. Nakajima has reported that he had a particular distaste for water stunts because he knew the other actors peed in the pool. Godzilla is so powerful that we think of him as invincible, no matter the obstacle. We're always seeing the same towering monster rampaging through the city and besting his foes. One piece of less common knowledge is that Godzilla has actually died several times. While he has come back from the grave on occasion, he's permanently died more than once. What does this mean for the franchise's continuity? Simply put, it isn't one monster with different designs running through the Toho series, but multiple members of the same species, all called Godzilla. While it's known that Godzilla's species can have multiple members, it's less commonly known that the Toho films also feature different Godzillas rather than a single character. First and foremost, in the original 1954 Godzilla, King of the Monsters was famously defeated by the oxygen destroyer weapon, killing him and leaving nothing but bones.
People of the world, Godzilla is dead.
Characters speculate that there could be another Godzilla out there. But when Godzilla re-emerges in Godzilla Raids Again, it's a brand new, entirely different member of his species, setting the template for subsequent appearances. 2016's Shin Godzilla is the first and only film so far of its continuity, reimagining Godzilla as a new form of rapidly evolving organism, a kind of prehistoric marine animal whose evolutionary journey is kicked off by nuclear waste on the ocean floor. The film depicts Godzilla as an aggressive and increasingly powerful creature who evolves rapidly into a succession of different forms, culminating in its fourth, a massive hulking monstrosity that devastates Tokyo until, in the middle of an unfinished fifth evolution, he's exposed to a massive amount of blood coagulant that freezes him solid. The ending of the film starts to show the form that Godzilla had been evolving into, his body opening to expose a number of smaller humanoid entities. According to the Art of Shin Godzilla book and other official publications, the fifth form was intended to have new powers, like indefinite self-division, or being able to regenerate from the smallest particle. While it's difficult to say if there will be a direct sequel to Shin Godzilla to take this story further, it has intriguing possibilities for the franchise as a whole. Godzilla is the star of a multimedia empire that covers everything from film and television to video games and comic books, including a brief stint as a Marvel Comics star that saw the colossal creature fight a host of superheroes. Between 1977 and 1979, Marvel Comics published 24 issues of Godzilla, King of the Monsters. Notably, this series saw the first time he touched down on US soil, and had Godzilla lock in combat with a number of monsters and Marvel characters. Godzilla's comics history runs through an array of companies. After the character's stint at Marvel, publishing rights changed hands to Dark Horse Comics, and eventually IDW Publishing. In 2015, IDW launched a 5-issue series written by multiple authors and illustrators called Godzilla in Hell, which sees the massive beast fall into the mouth of hell. In each issue, he fights otherworldly original kaiju, or variants of his own cast of demonic creatures. Check out one of our newest videos right here. Plus, even more Looper videos about your favorite movies are coming soon. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and hit the bell so you don't miss a single one.